tonight is a program of music for narrator and orchestra that began, as you noted in the program, is really going to be kind of a youth-oriented program. Well, COVID sort of threw a monkey wrench in that. So we all need to kind of capture our inner child for some of this tonight and enjoy it in that spirit. The first piece we're going to do tonight is a setting of the Brothers Grimm story, The Frog Prince. And originally, I don't know if you know this, I'm sure you do because you're all highly researched in folklore. The Brothers Grimm published The Frog Prince in 1815, so it's quite old, and it's probably been around since the 13th century. It's a very, very old German folktale. Well, it might not be German, but the Brothers Grimm said everything they published was a German folktale. They pretty much stole it. Originally, of course, we all know the Brothers Grimm sort of sanitized a lot of the stories, and in this case, no spoiler, but you know there is a kiss between the prince and the frog, princess and the frog, that turns him into a prince, in case you didn't know that. But in the original, it was a little more violent, and in the original, the princess throws the frog against the wall. I know, right?
We're not doing that, right?
Well, we'll see how Marcus does. So, anyway, it's my pleasure to start the program off with The Frog Prince by Stephen Winteregg. I believe this is an Oregon premiere. I don't think this music has been performed in Oregon yet. We'd like to introduce Kathleen Morrow as our narrator, Marcos Galvez, he'll be singing here with the frog, and Jennifer Hardy, who is our princess. So enjoy The Frog Prince.
Thank you. beautiful young daughter. She loved to play in the palace gardens, and especially loved her shiny golden ball. One day, as she was tossing the ball high in the air, it fell into a deep well. The princess had no way to fetch the ball from the well, so she began to cry bitterly.
Oh, my shiny golden ball is gone! How will I ever get it back? I would give anything I own just to have my ball back again.
Suddenly, she heard a voice by the well.
Princess, why do you cry?
The princess looked closely and saw nothing but a small green frog. The frog repeated his question. Astonished at the talking frog, the princess stopped crying and explained that she had lost her precious ball down the well. The frog replied,
I can get your ball for you, but I would like something in return.
Yes, yes, anything,
said the princess.
I would like to come to your palace, dine with you at your table, and sleep at night on a soft silk pillow.
The princess, being very selfish, only wanted her ball back. So she said,
yes, yes, I promise that you may have your wish.
But in her heart, she had no intention to let the frog come to her home. The frog promptly dove into the well and within moments fetched the ball for the princess. Once she had the ball safely back in her hands, however, the princess ran away from the frog.
Wait for me! I can't run as fast as you can!
The poor frog shouted after her.
Go back to your well where you belong. You can't come to my palace, and I don't want to ever see you again.
retorted the princess. As she returned home for dinner, the princess forgot all about the frog. As she began to eat, however, she heard soft steps approaching her front door. Then she heard a familiar sound.
I've come to dinner, princess dear. You'll find your one true love is near. Remember the promises you made. Remember the promises you made. By the well, today among the glen. Promises you made. Remember the promises you made. By the well, today among the glen.
The princess cautiously opened the door a crack.
Promised, you promised. You promised, you promised me.
And then slammed it shut when she saw the frog. She ran back to the dinner table in a state of fright. Her father, the king, asked what was wrong. The princess explained.
Today by the well I lost my ball. A frog sitting by it saw it fall and fetched it out of the depths for me. Upon the promise my home he could see.
Hesitate to tell his daughter, whatever promises you make, you must keep your word, whether you want to or not. Reluctantly, the princess went back to the door and let in the frog, who had been waiting patiently.
You promised! You promised! You promised! You promised me! Please put me up on the table and let me eat your food from your own plate.
Although the princess did not want to, she kept her word because her father insisted. After dinner, the frog said,
Now show me to my soft silk pillow where I wish to sleep.
The princess reluctantly gave the frog one of her own pillows, and the frog settled in for a long night's sleep. In the morning, the frog returned to the well, and the princess thought with relief that she would never see him again. But at dinner time that night, the frog reappeared at the front door, demanding dinner and his pillow. At his presence, but at the insistence of her father, she kept her promise. In the morning, as before, the frog returned to the well. On the third night, the frog returned for dinner and his pillow. Who was rather dismayed by this time, allowed the frog to eat her food and sleep on the silk pillow. The next morning, however, the princess did not see the frog. Instead, a handsome young prince greeted her at the breakfast table.
as the frog who lives by the well. But now I have turned back into the prince that I really am. Only when someone would keep a promise to me could I be freed from the spell that kept me hopping around as a frog in a wet, marshy glade. I am very grateful to you, although I know it was not easy to care for me as a frog. I thank you for your kindness and for the promise that you kept. I would like to repay you by taking you back to my kingdom as my bride, where we will live happily ever after.
The princess was so taken by the handsome prince and his grateful heart that she immediately said,
Yes!
They were married that day and traveled happily to the palace of the prince. They really did live happily ever after.
Ribbit.
Ribbit?
Set of poems, and they are going to be narrated by Mr. Tappert.
Somebody said that it couldn't be done, but he, with a chuckle, replied that maybe it couldn't, but he would be one who wouldn't say so until he tried. So he buckled right in with a trace of a grin on his face, and he worried he did it. He started to sing as he tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and he did it. Somebody scoffed, "Oh, you'll never do that. At least no one has ever done it." But he took off his coat and he took off his hat, and the first thing he knew, he'd begun it. With a lift of his chin and a bit of a grin, without a nothing but with it, he started to sing as he tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and he did it. There are thousands to tell you it cannot be done. There are thousands to prophesy failure. There are thousands to point out to you, one by one, the dangers that wait to assail you. What? Just buckle in everything. Just take off your coat and go to it. Are you sure you have the thing that cannot be done, and you'll do it? When some great sorrow, like a mighty river, flows through your life with peace-destroying power, and dearest things are swept from sight forever, say to your heart each trying hour, this too shall pass away. When ceaseless toil has hushed your song of gladness, and you have grown almost too tired to pray, let this truth banish from your heart its sadness, and ease the burdens of each trying day. This too shall pass away. When fortune smiles and full of mirth and pleasure, the days are flitting by without a care, lest you should rest with only earthly treasure, let these few words their fullest import bear. This too shall pass away. When earnest labor brings your fame and glory, and all earth's noblest ones upon you smile, remember that life's longest, grandest story fills but a moment in earth's little while. This too shall pass away. Roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for that, the passing there had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Though I kept the other for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. You are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and be not tired by waiting or being lied about, don't deal in lies. Or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves, to make a trap for fools, or watch the things that you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can walk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, and all men count with you, but none too much. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and, which is more, you'll be a man, my son.
All right, for our final portion of the program tonight, you're here for a premiere of a brand new work. This is called A Sasquatch Portrait. And we are featuring Mr. Peter Tappert as our narrator. It's in, yes, it's in 4 movements. You can consult the program for the titles. We hope you enjoy it.
millennia, they have stood in the shadows of the ancient wild places. They've hunted in the rainforests of the Pacific Northwest, raised young in the Appalachian Mountains, and hid from the encroachment of mankind in Europe and in Asia. The wild world is disappearing, and with it, the tribes of animals and ancestors, seen only in fleeting glimpses and the scant evidence they leave behind. They are the wild men of the forests, the Yeti, the Orang Pendak, and known to us as Sasquatch. Sasquatch has been a character of First Nations myth and legend. Stories told around a campfire, images carved into totem poles, sensational and barely credible witness accounts, but also the subject of serious anthropology. One theory is that Sasquatch is a relic hominid, an odd survivor of a species of primate long thought to be extinct. Nearly 2 million years ago, a 10-foot tall relative of the orangutan walked the forests of Asia. According to the fossil record, Gigantopithecus blacki went extinct over 100,000 years ago. But what if Gigantopithecus didn't disappear, but instead crossed from Asia to North America when the Bering Land Bridge connected the two continents nearly 20,000 years ago? Could this massive yet largely unknown primate ancestor be the origin of Sasquatch in North America? A relic hominid species of ape that is as secretive, elusive, mysterious, and rare now it perhaps was in those impossibly ancient forests of Asia.
I need to find out from you, how many of you, and you can be honest, we're all friends here, have actually seen the show Finding Bigfoot on Discovery Channel? Not a single thing? You got it. What does that say about me? Well, you're a believer. Yeah. So, let me tell you, if you've never seen that show, it's very structured, and in the middle of the show, they have a town meeting, and they bring people together, and they ask people if they've ever seen or had an encounter with Bigfoot, and amazingly, there's usually 30 people that raise their hand, and they come up and they tell their story, and they put a pin on the map, you know, where that's been. So let me ask you, it's okay, we are recording, but don't worry about it. We won't publish your name. Have any of you had, you don't have to tell your story, but raise your hand if you've had some sort of encounter with Sasquatch. Okay.
I most certainly did.
Would you like to come up and tell us?
I would.
Tell us about it. Walk us into the story.
It was a smell I noticed first. Like a skunk and wet dog and garbage all tickling my throat. I sat up in my tent, and that is when the howls began. My buddy and I were camping in the foothills of Mount Adams, up in the Gifford Pit Show. This was late spring, it must have been 5 years ago now. We turned in around midnight. Our campsite was a few dozen feet from the banks of a nice trout stream. You could hear the water and the splash of the fish lying there in your sleeping bag. It's almost like white noise. The howling seemed to surround us. And in between the howls, there was this low, pulsing, grunting sound that I could feel in my chest, my stomach. I found out later it's called infrasound. Between the smell and the howls, I was frozen in place. I was so scared and a little bit sick. And I'm not a religious man, but I might have said a prayer that night. Finally, the howling stopped. How long did it go on? Seconds? Minutes? I don't know, but it stopped. That smell went away too, or at least got a little less strong. I thought I heard something big splashing in the water. Then, I did something stupid. I've often wondered why I did it. I opened up the tent, and I looked outside. I forgot to say there was a full moon that night, lots of stars, not many clouds, and so I could see clearly whatever it was that stood in the stream. It was massive, at least 8 or maybe 9 feet tall. That's just a guess, but a pretty good one. Its shoulders were massive, and its neck was a thick bundle of fat and muscle. It was covered with long, brown-black hair, shiny in the moonlight. It stood with its back to me, and I could hear it breathing, slow and steady. It was holding a half-eaten trout, a pretty big one too, but it looked like a sardine in its hands. And that is when I did another stupid thing. I called to my buddy Paul in the other tent. Paul, I tried to whisper, you gotta see this. And that is when the thing turned and looked at me. It was surprised. I could see it in its eyes, but it wasn't hostile. We looked at each other for a good 30 seconds. Me motionless with fear, and this massive creature trying to decide what exactly I was, and where I had come from, and what it was gonna do to me. And that's when it dropped the fish, raised its head, and howled again. When I looked again, all I saw was a massive form disappearing into the forest on all fours. Paul came out of his tent and asked me what the hell was going on. I said, I just seen something. I can't really explain it. I told him what I saw. You saw a bear, right? That's all it was. Go back to sleep. Now, I've seen bears. Big ones, too. And that was no bear. That was a Sasquatch. following story comes from the Yokut Indians in California. All the birds and the animals of the mountains went to Eagle, chief of the animals, who asked each animal how they wanted people to be. Each animal took a turn and said what they had to say. Fish said, "People should know how to swim like me, so let them be able to hold their breath and swim very deep." Hummingbird said, "People should be fast like me, so let them have good feet and endurance." Eagle said, "People should be wise, wiser than me, so people will help animals and take care of the earth." Turtle said, "People should be able to protect themselves like me, so let's give them courage and strength." Lizard said, "People should have fingers like me, so that people can make baskets and bows and arrows." Owl said, "People should be good hunters like me, so give them knowledge and cunning." Condor said, "People should be different from us, so give them hair and not feathers or fur to keep them warm." Then Coyote said, "People should be just like me, because I am smart and tricky, so have them walk on all fours." Hairy Man, who had not said anything yet, shook his head and said, "No, people should walk on two legs, like me." All the other animals agreed with Hairy Man, and Coyote became very angry. He challenged Hairy Man to a race, and they agreed whoever won could decide how people should walk. They gathered at the waterfall to begin the race. Coyote started and took a shortcut. Hairy Man was wiser than Coyote and knew that Coyote would cheat to win, and people would have to walk on all fours. So Hairy Man stayed behind and helped Eagle, Condor, and the others to make people. They went back to the rock and drew people on two legs on the ground. The animals breathed on them, and people came out of the ground. Hairy Man was very pleased and went to people. But when they saw Hairy Man, they were scared and ran away. That made Hairy Man sad. All the other animals drew their pictures on the rock so people would remember them. Hairy Man was sad because people were afraid of him, so he drew himself sad. And that is why Hairy Man's picture is crying to this day. If Sasquatch does not exist, who then is the hairy man of the First Nation stories, whose face is carved into the stones and totems? If Sasquatch is not real, who has left countless immense tracks in the wilderness, has broken branches, has made nests? Whose voice can be heard calling in the night, a sound not made by wolf, coyote, dog, or bird? If Sasquatch is not real, then who strides in the Bluff Creek in the Patterson-Gimlin film, muscles flexing beneath fur as she turns and peers with alarm at the intruders in her wilderness? Wild places disappear, swallowed by man's never-ending encroachment, plowed, cut, burned, poisoned. The deep forests and their mysteries are fading into myth, their tribes of animals silenced. Sasquatch exists, we need her to be real. To remind us of the time before modern man enslaved the natural world. Of the wild, to be our link to our ancient primordial past.